with the striper boils, and my dad talks about the 50 bite rule. And I don't know if he's ever blogged about that or talked about that on camera. He says you have to, and it's not specifically 50, it's just generally speaking. Once you get, he says, Troy, once, and it's usually, you know, after I messed up or I had a bad turn or something like that, then once you get 50 bites on this, which I haven't yet on the A rig, I'm still trying to get there, but 50 bites on each bait or each presentation, and then, you know, if it's 40 or 60, whatever it is, but you get to a nice striper boil, you get 20 or 30, just like that. But the 50 bite rule, I think, I truly believe in that, and, you know, seeing it myself. And the next is what I call on the lakes is the breakthrough. And that experience for Clear Lake, it was a TOC fishing with Bill there on the first day of the tournament. We ended up winning that. It was like the first day, what I call the breakthrough. And on the left, you kind of see that scene from The Matrix at the end when Neo finally sees the Matrix. You know, and he sees, I don't know what they call that Matrix view where everything is with the lines, but he steps back and now he can see it. And that's kind of the way in each of these lakes, the kind of the way I envision that, not like Neo, but kind of like you're stepping back and you're like, okay, I can beat this lake. I got this. It's, you know, like is that Predator? If it bleeds, we can kill it. Like that. So the breakthrough there was that first one good day in a tournament where we had 25 pounds. We ended up winning it. Coming back the following spring, if you looked at my finishes before that, I go up to Clear Lake, like my first year there. Oh, what was I? 135th or something, and then you had that one day that boom, you step back and say, okay, all right, this lake's vulnerable. I can do this. And then at Havasu, it happened in 2009, the breakthrough. The third day was the third day. I think that was I forgot who won that. Klinger was leading that, I think, for 3 days, and I think Ayler won it. It was on the final day. I shifted gears. I went for all smallmouth and weighed in, I think, 14. It was for that time. It was one of the biggest bags of the tournament. It was 14 and a half pounds. I just shifted gears. I went all smallmouth, all reaction. I stayed off the beds, and then I came in, and I'm just like, wow, this was the breakthrough day. And then it took 3 years to come back to Havasu with that confidence. I waited 3 years to come. I was just itching for when's the schedule coming out? Are they going to Havasu? No. Oh! You know, and then 2010, no, 2011, no, 2012. I'm like, yes, finally, 3 years. I'm going to get my revenge on the lake. And when I came back there, I mean, I had that day. I said, if I can do it on that day, I can do it even with the first day when I was in 20th. And then I think 9th after the second day, I still had that. I had that breakthrough day. And then that ended up being a breakthrough tournament for me. The swinging, and you hear the swinging for the fence. And that's kind of a very broad term. And I think the fences at different ballparks are different heights and different distances. So each lake, I think, has their own fence. If it's 10 or 12 pounds, or if it's 2 pounders or 3 pounders. And for yourself, just to increase, you know, if try and hit a home run, you know, try to get, you know, maybe get a double or a triple first. Try to get a good limit one time, and then really go out there once you have the confidence on that and building on that. So your fence just kind of moves back a little bit further. It's probably a bad analogy, but it makes sense in my head. And the successes and the mistakes and trying to learn and remembering both. So I remember that Delta tournament, that last day is in my head. I totally choked. Absolute first to admit it. I'm total to blame. But I remember it, and I've learned HDL, hook, drag, line. And from Havasu, I remember my victories. Okay, I can catch fish at this level and win. So that built on smaller team tournaments and club tournaments and the TBF, and building up that confidence at each level. Well, there's too many mistakes. I'll get to that later in the second page. But one of the things that I dealt with in some of the tournaments early on, I still deal with it sometimes, especially when I go back east. Something happens when I cross the Rockies. I leave all my fishing ability and knowledge on the other side when I cross. I'm like, I don't know. But when the boats blast off, even when I talk with people and even myself, like something changes, like when the boats blast off, it's like your ability to catch fish doesn't change no matter who's in the tournament. If you know how to throw a jig incredibly well at this lake, just because there's a 100-boat field or you're fishing against whoever, Gary Klein, you know, your ability to catch fish on that jig does not change. But sometimes that kind of gets in our head. Oh, look who's here. Oh, no, he's fishing here. What's my boat draw? Last boat out, great. I'm not going to get that spot. And that, where's the boat? Oh, yeah, the boat draw. I used to get upset about the boat draw. Now I just don't even care. I don't give it any power. I used to, like, oh, what number? Come on, give me first boat out. Because I've had so many times where I've been the first boat out and I get to the spot and I get nothing. And the last boat out, you know, and then you hit the fish. So the boat draw, you can't control it. It's just it's roll the dice. You just roll with it, and whatever happens is going to happen. And making the right decisions after that and your reaction to that is going to have a better effect than your actual draw. I like being the last one out anyway. That way, I just have nothing to complain about. Well, I couldn't. That gives me an excuse. I couldn't get to my spot. And the conversations I'm going to say, I was talking to myself, or if you've ever been in the boat with somebody and they're doing bad and you hear them talking, but they're not talking to you, and they're not on the phone, they're obviously talking to somebody. And usually it's themselves. Hopefully it's not an imaginary friend, but Tim Galloway in the Inner Game of Tennis talks about two selves, the self one and the self two. And it took me a while to go through that book a little bit and understand this. And I think it can apply to other things in life, but I'm applying this to fishing. You hear people, I was talking to myself out there. What does that mean? I was talking to myself. Who is I and who is myself? Well, Tim Galloway said it's the self one and the self two. And when I say that, come on, Troy, make the cast, that's kind of if you've been, oh, come on, you know, like, oh, I missed it, or so, you know, you're working a bed, and you're like, oh, come on, you reel up, and you flip again, and like, come on, get on there, you know, and you're talking to yourself. And what he describes in there is the self one is the teller. So you have the one side of you that's very self-judging and critical. That's the one that, like, come on, what are you doing? Make the cast. Why'd you lose that fish? And the self two, what he described, that's the one doing the casting, doing the actions. That's the one that we need to trust. We know how to cast. We know how to pick a spot. We know how to fish a bait, and we're getting better at that, and trusting ourselves and not having that critical side of ourselves tell us that we can't, you know, and they come into I realize self one, you know, you could probably ask some of my draws, you know, I'm like, oh, come on, you know. So when self two is in control, you watch that in sports, you see people, they say, oh, that guy's in the zone. If you're watching basketball, you see Kobe, he's on fire. Or pitcher, you know, you don't talk to the pitcher. Just let him pitch. And that's the self two, driving. There's no self-doubt, there's no second guessing. And if you've ever been on a good bite or you've had a great day on the lake, and it's probably, you're just like, well, you're not even thinking about it, and you're just catching fish. You're not critical of your cast, but it's just happening. Your self two is making everything happen. And you're not self-critical, you're not doubting yourself, you're just, say, flowing there. I've heard people mention that, you're kind of flow. I mean, it's easy. It's like this unconscious, what was it? You're almost unconsciously just fishing. Like you watch those basketball players, they got like a second to react to something and shoot, or a baseball player, he's not thinking about 100 things when he's lining up. He's just, his self two is just swing, like that. It's not being critical, like, well, okay, he's releasing it off his right hand, the finger, it's a curveball. He's just reacting to it. And I think that when you're just out there reacting and trusting yourself, you're able to catch a lot more fish